Dwayne Lukas is back in the Kentucky Derby. Can the coach pull a shocker with American Promise? Let's find out. Hi, everyone. Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, and welcome to our Kentucky Derby Contender Spotlight Series, this one on Dwayne Lukas's American Promise. Now, before we get to this very exciting horse, I want to encourage you to press that like button and subscribe to NYRA Bets YouTube today. Subscribing is entirely free of cost, just notifies you when new videos drop on the channel, whether those are race previews, full card analyses, handicapping and betting tutorials, weekly programs, and specialty episodes like this one, and so much more. We got you covered for the Derby, the Triple Crown, Saratoga, the Breeders' Cup. Listen, we got you covered for everything in horse racing, so press that like and subscribe button today. All right, well, listen, let's dive in and talk about American Promise, trained by the legend, Dwayne Lukas. Listen, I'm 44 years old, and I grew up following the Kentucky Derby in the 80s and 90s, and there is no person more synonymous with my memories of the Kentucky Derby than Dwayne Lukas. Maybe Nick Zito, maybe Bob Baffert, but really, it is Dwayne and that Stetson hat, the sunglasses, and I just thought that's what a horseman should look like when I was a kid growing up in suburban Pennsylvania. But that was something where, Dwayne went away for a long time, didn't have a lot of great horses. He was still training, but didn't have the quality stock. Last couple of years, you've started to see it come back. Obviously, Secret Oath on the Phillies side, winning the Oaks a couple of years ago. Then you had last year, Seize the Gray, who won the Pat Day Mile on the undercard for the Kentucky Derby, came back 2 weeks later to win the Preakness, won the Pennsylvania Derby later that year. And now you have him with American Promise. And let's talk about this horse, who I think is so interesting. Trained by the coach, jockeyed by Nick Juarez. And Nick is it's a fascinating choice because Dwayne will give a lot of young jockeys a shot on horses. And he kind of was given, Tyler Bacon down at Oaklawn a little bit of a shot. And it really wasn't working out with American Promise. And he gave Nick Juarez the mount in the Virginia Derby. And it was like, man, that looks like that's how you handle this horse. And so Nick did a really nice job, I thought, handling this horse in that race, which he won, of course. And, is I think the right jockey moving forward for him in this particular spot. And Dwayne uses and works with Nick quite a bit at Oaklawn as well. So certainly jockey he's very familiar with. You got to love the pedigree. The pedigree is outstanding on American Promise. Sired by Triple Crown winner Justify. Justify, unlike his fellow stablemate, past stablemate, American Pharaoh, who was also a Triple Crown winner, Justify has already gone on to be the greater sire of the two. American Pharaoh is a perfectly good sire, but has not produced the sort of consistently upper echelon runners that Justify has. You look at what Justify's done in just a couple of years as a sire is pretty incredible. I mean, he's already accounted for Breeders' Cup victories and, Just FYI and Hard to Justify. And he's had a lot of nice horses already. And so, he's going to have the distance influence. That's no problem at all. Although I will say his numbers actually of his offspring sprinting are actually even stronger. But I think that has a lot to do because a lot of them are very precocious at 2 years old when they're sprinting on the dirt. Then you have Tapella out of Tappet underneath. So you have that Tappet influence underneath. We've talked about that before. Tappet, great influence from a distance standpoint. So again, you're getting the speed and stamina of Justify up top. You're getting the stamina and speed of Tappet underneath. You're getting a lot of good things here in this pedigree. And certainly a horse that when you see him physically is just a big horse. Wayne's talked about this. I think he said he's up to 17 hands potentially, which if you've ever been around a thoroughbred is massive. A lot of thoroughbreds are a little bit smaller. And that's one of the things, if you've ever been around horses in general, thoroughbreds tend to be a little bit smaller than your average horse that you might be going on a trail ride. Or, in my case, I know a lot of people in the Carolinas and Texas who do mounted fox hunting. Very elitist activity of me, I know. But, when you're on some of those horses, most of those horses are, 16.2, 16.3 in terms of hands. You're around a lot of thoroughbreds, they're 15.3, 16, maybe 16.1. You look at a horse like American Promise, he's just a big freaking horse. And so when you have horses that size, you sometimes do worry, are they gangly? but he's really well put together. I mean, he's got a good conformation to him. He's well built. He's not, he's not too lanky. He's not too skinny. He's well proportioned for his size. So he's a horse that certainly has the pedigree and the build to suggest he can do the 1.25 miles. Now, here's the thing, though. He's had some opportunities in big races and not particularly run well. His best effort was in the Virginia Derby. Outside of that, he's broken his maiden, but otherwise he finished 6th in the Southwest and 5th in the Risen Star and kind of also ran performances. So the question is that Virginia Derby something to come, or is that Virginia Derby an anomaly? And I think that's where people are going to have a little bit of a difference of opinion when we talk about this horse. Now, it should not surprise you that a Dwayne Lukas horse has by far and away the most conditioning and foundation of any of the horses in this field. This horse has raced a lot. And you'll notice this horse has raced against maiden company a lot. It took this horse a while to break its maiden. It debuted in Saratoga back in July. Really didn't do much running there. Ran again in Saratoga, ran a little bit better. But then went to Churchill, ran in the slop. So you don't want to take too much out of that. Then went 2 turns at Churchill, nearly got the job done, going 1 mile and a 16th back in October, but didn't break its maiden until going to Oaklawn Park over a muddy sealed track with Tyler Bacon aboard, and who just went straight to the front and went gate to wire that day. And then went to the Southwest with Tyler, and that was not a great ride. It was kind of a little bit of a timid ride by him that day, I thought. He got replaced by Keith Asmussen, who I also didn't think gave a particularly great ride in the Risen Star. So it was hard to say, he didn't really do great in either of those races, though you could look at that Risen Star and go, well, listen, Magnitude won that race by 9.25 lengths, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 9.5. So yes, he finished 5th by 13 lengths, but really, if you think of a horse like Chunk of Gold, who finished 2nd that day, that horse was 2nd by 9.5 lengths. So really, in some ways, he was maybe, if you take Magnitude out of it, he was 4th by 4 lengths, basically. It still doesn't really make it a lot better, but at least provides a little bit more context for why he was so many lengths back in that race. Then he goes to the Virginia Derby and just absolutely crushes the field. It was a speed favoring track that day, broke from the inside rail, dueled up on the front end a little bit, and then just absolutely put away the competition. Now, it's important to remember that was a 1 1/8 one-turn mile race. That's a very different configuration than most tracks. But you should also note the fractions: 45 and 1, 108 and 1. They were flying that day, going that one-turn mile. But that's, again, to be expected doing a one-turn mile. So it's a little bit of a different configuration and setup. But still, the fact that this horse got stronger as that race went on and just pulled away from the competition despite setting those strong fractions, earned a 95 Beyer Spade figure, which matches what he earned as a maiden breaking victory as well. He's handled the fast track. He's handled the wet track. Those are both promising developments to see. He hasn't yet won at Churchill Downs, despite running there 3 times. He nearly got the job done, though, there, going 2 turns back in October, admittedly against maiden company. This is also a horse that was $7,500, or $750,000, excuse me, at the Keeneland September sale back as a yearling. So this was, again, a horse that had a lot of expectations early on in his career with that purchase of $750,000. I am less bullish on this horse than my colleague Kaylee Shapiro. Kaylee really likes this horse a lot. I mean, she and I argue about this sometimes on camera and off. She really likes this horse. I know what she's looking at in terms of this horse is moving forward in this last 3 starts, from the Southwest to the Risen Star to the Virginia Derby. We're moving the right direction. Dwayne decided to skip the Lexington. This horse was originally decided to point towards the Lexington as a little bit of a freshening, and decided not to run in that race and just train up to the Kentucky Derby. And you can look at that in one of 2 ways. You can go, listen, he felt like he didn't need the Lexington because the horse is training so well, or maybe the horse didn't come out of the Virginia Derby quite as well as he thought and needed a little bit extra time to recover, and now is training a little bit better, but maybe the Lexington would have been too much. It's also just a weird point in the calendar. I say this because the Virginia Derby is a new Kentucky Derby prep race. It used to be on the turf in the fall. When Churchill Downs bought Colonial Downs, they moved it to the spring and made it a Kentucky Derby prep race on the dirt. That's fine. It's March 15th. Most of the 100-point prep races start the following week, March 22nd. So American Promise is going to have among the longest layoffs of anyone in this field coming into this race. Most of these horses are coming in on 4 or 5 weeks rest, which is kind of ideal, getting them into a rhythm. He's going to be coming in off of 6 to 7 weeks rest. That's not necessarily ideal. And Dwayne's numbers aren't necessarily great when you look at horses coming off that length of layoff for him over the last few years. Now, admittedly, he doesn't have this quality of stock all the time running, but American Promise is a horse that you're going to get a price on. That's for sure, because he kind of has been forgotten about after that victory in the Virginia Derby. The other thing I'll say is, who did he exactly beat in the Virginia Derby? Render Judgment. Okay, I don't really like that horse. The horse is fine, but I mean, come on. Omaha. I love that horse, but again, come on. Getaway Car for Baffert. Sure, the horse had a couple of nice efforts for sure, but ultimately that horse is clearly a miler or a sprinter, not wanting to go long. So I just don't know how good the field was he beat that day at the Virginia Derby. The track configuration makes me raise some questions. That was a very speed favoring track that weekend as well, if you remember. So that raises some questions. And then you look at just the time of the Virginia Derby to the Kentucky Derby. That's an unusual layoff period. And I just worry about this horse. Maybe this horse is ready to go now and, or next week and might be a little too, built up by the time we get to the Kentucky Derby. We'll just have to wait and see. But he's a horse you're going to get a price on. You're going to get a price on this horse. And I think at a price, there's worse horses to consider. That's for sure. This horse has at least shown the ability to run well. He's going to be part of the early pace scenario, though. That's the other thing. East Avenue, Owen Almighty, Rodriguez, and or Citizen Bull. One of those Bafferts is going to go. Maybe Admire Daytona, the one international runner. These horses, they all like to be up front. They all want to go. The question is how many of them can go, all right? And remember what a horse like Just Steel did last year, making it to the Kentucky Derby and then got burned up on the front end and faded back for Lukas. So, again, I'm a little worried about that dynamic with this horse, but he is a big, strapping horse. He is physically stronger than a lot of the other horses that you're going to see run in this race. So he stands out in that way. He certainly has a ton of talent. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and he's going to be a little bit of a price. So if you think this is a horse that can get up and control the speed, maybe sit right off of it, sit second or third to a horse like Rodriguez or a horse like East Avenue and get the right sort of trip without going too fast, hey, you're going to get a big price on him, and you certainly got a big price on him in those future wagers, if he was even listed on some of the future wagers. I think he was on the last one. So, listen, going to be a lot of fun, but it's always good to have some familiar faces back at the Kentucky Derby, and one of those certainly is Dwayne Lukas. We love to see the coach in the Kentucky Derby. Like I said, he was there last year with Just Steel, but I feel like this year, American Promise maybe a little bit more of a promising prospect, no pun intended. All right, well, hope you enjoyed this Kentucky Derby Spotlight episode on American Promise. Make sure to press that like and subscribe button today. My name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and profitable day at the races, and reminding you, friends, it's now post time.